Hi, good morning, everyone. Today we are here to talk about robotic process automation in this episode. Robotic process automation is an upcoming technology, something which is booming in the market. There are a lot of talks around RPA. So today our episode is going to be focusing on deciphering exactly what is RPA, which is robotic process automation. We're going to be understanding exactly what are the tools involved. How does a person start a career in RPA? How does RPA help in terms of marketing yourself? Knowledge of RPA, how does it help in terms of building a career in RPA or marketing yourself better in either a functional domain or, for that matter, in the technical domain? So I have Hrishikesh with me today. He works with Tesco as a continuous improvement manager, and in his job he uses RPA extensively. So we're going to be understanding straight away from Hrishikesh. So welcome, Hrishikesh, to the show.
Hi, Shriram. Thank you for having me on the show.
Hi, great. So Hrishikesh, please tell us what is RPA. Let's start from the basics, and we'll go on and we'll understand more about how does RPA function, how does it help people in their job, what are the different types of career. Those are things that we're going to be discussing. So Hrishikesh, please help us explain what is RPA.
Okay, to just start off, just giving an introduction in terms of how RPA actually evolved. So you always had data scraping that we used to do, all right? So that was the first phase of RPA that actually started. And then it actually gradually picked up in terms of being used in different form or shape in different industry. So basically what RPA is doing right now is any work that's manual in nature, all right, where there's a repetitive task that you do constantly. You can use a robotic process automation solution, all right, to ensure that you get the accuracy, you also get the best quality of the work that is being done, and also you can reduce the time taken to kind of do this work as well. So RPA is kind of automating such manual intensive works that we have right now. And classic example would be the data entry kind of jobs, right, which are repetitive in nature and which predominantly involve just copy paste kind of jobs as well. All right, so that's the first evolution in terms of the RPA that you can see right now.
So can you please tell us in what all fields or what is possible in RPA and what is not possible in an RPA? So what are the doables and not the doables? Yeah.
Sure. So the thing is, if you think about RPA, right, so there are two aspects of RPA. One is RPA, which does in terms of the manual intensive jobs that we have. The second part of RPA is in terms of the artificial intelligence, which needs to be clubbed together. All right. So when artificial intelligence is clubbed to RPA, all right, it starts learning how the system functions, and it can learn through that and kind of ensure that they can add a couple of more functionalities of how RPA can work. Now, the first part of RPA, what we're talking about right now, is about in terms of how we can move the manual process to be done by a bot. And some of the examples that we have is data scraping, all right, through the web that you want to do. It might be in some cases, like for example, open some emails and kind of get that information copy pasted to an Excel sheet and so on, all right. And in some instances, it might be that you're using multiple applications, all right. You link them together to talk together as well as work together, all right, which means, for example, if I'm in a data entry kind of job and I constantly work on different systems, all right, what actually RPA can do is link all the system and do that job from a human perspective, all right. And there are multiple things that you can do through this in terms of if you're into reporting and a regular report needs to be generated on time and every time, it can kind of go to a database, pick up the data from there, churn out that report in the form and shape that you want, and send it out on a particular time. So there are different domains that it can be explored in right now.
Okay, great. So what are the common perceptions in the industry where people feel that RPA can kind of do anything and everything? But I'm sure there are certain limitations in terms of RPA. What are those limitations?
So some of the limitations is, while we have robotics and artificial intelligence working together, right? there is that human aspect, that human touch that's required in terms of some thinking, logical based kind of. So, for a classic example might be if you want to do a firefighting, right, at that particular moment of time, you need to run a lot of thought process in terms of deciding of what to do and how to do. That thought process cannot be done by a robot, right? So, thinking part of it in terms of using that gut feeling in some of the instances where you need to take some of the calls. It might be also in terms of putting some logic while you're doing something. These are some of the classic things which is mostly related to human aspect, which cannot be built into these bots.
Got it. Fair enough. From what I understand from what you said is that for the regular processes which are set, which are stabilized, which are stable, we can definitely use RPA. But for some processes where you require dynamic thinking or an intervention where you have to think on the go,
Yeah.
those are the areas where RPA cannot be successful at this point of time. Am I right?
And there are some instances, for example, if you think about, say, medical and healthcare, right? There might be some things which may not be automated as well, because there are multiple industries that they are currently using it, but the exploration or the limitation that is there, it's confined to, like you rightly mentioned, saying that, okay, where there is a lot of thinking process that's involved, all right, where it's not a systematic in nature and not a repetitive kind of thing that you do. All right. In those instances, you rightly mentioned saying that, okay, RPA may not be a right solution for it.
Okay, fair enough. Because there's a lot of perception in the market that, RPA is going to take over our jobs. RPA is everything, right? It's going to remove all the human interventions in the next few years and we're going to lose our jobs. So there are a lot of these perceptions and, people have. And I just want to kind of clarify to ensure that people have a fair understanding of what are the limitations of RPA and what is it that is possible, right? And what is the essence of using an RPA rather than thinking that, hey, that's going to take over human intervention. Great. So that helps a lot, Rishikesh. So now let's talk about if I'm a manager, right, who basically, or if I'm basically an individual or a technical person or a functional guy who wants to learn about RPA to add that to my portfolio. Number one, what kind of jobs will it help me in?
Yeah. There are different sets of job right now existing in market. One has got to do with project management, which is functional related jobs, where you're a project manager and you're kind of exploring different opportunities within a process or function to see if that can be automated. Okay, that is one set of job. If you look at technical side of job, we do have people who can do a developer job, who can kind of develop these bots for specific processes. All right. So these are some of the jobs that actually are existing in the market. And for a project manager, for example, if you think about it, it's about not just about exploration of the process. It's beyond that as well. In terms of when you're doing a solutioning, it's just like any other project management, to be honest, where you have to kind of identify an opportunity, do the designing, then have the stakeholder engagement done. A lot of things similar to project management is involved when you think about a project kind of role. And for developer, it's again like a technological development team that kind of works in terms of developing these bots for them, building that logic in the bots, understanding how the process works, and kind of ensuring that the requirements are met. So this is more technical aspect of it in terms of designing those bots.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. So we'll probably go through a couple of job opportunities and see exactly what the requirements are.
Yeah.
In the meantime, I'd like to ask you, what do you think? How should a person start understanding about RPA? If I want to basically gather more knowledge and learn about RPA, how should I start?
Okay, I'll share my personal example in terms of how I kind of got inclined to RPA and started learning things myself. So there are different RPA solutions which are available. You have UiPath, you have BluePrism, and you have Automation Anywhere. So these are the ones which are quite known in the market. So what I did was basically these have some free trial versions that you can use, which you can download it on your system. All right. And what I did was I also went through some of the tutorials that they have on the YouTube. to see how it works. And they have videos for a beginner and all the way till a person who is kind of an expert as well. All right. So I what I did is I went through the beginner's video. I tried my hands-on experience on UiPath to see exactly what RPA does and how it works. And that actually kind of blew my mind in terms of how it can be used in different form or shape, and how it's going to change the face or the way we've been looking at data entry kind of jobs, all right, especially these outsourcing kind of jobs which are predominantly data driven, right, and how it can be used in some of these instances and kind of change things for a lot of people. So this is how my journey started in RPA basically.
Okay. So you're saying that there are a lot of these videos on YouTube which people can refer to start with?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, to start with.
Okay. And you're also saying that there are some trial versions of BluePrism or UiPath, and what was the other tool that you mentioned?
Automation Anywhere.
Automation Anywhere. So these are some of the tools: Automation Anywhere, BluePrism, and UiPath. And they have their trial versions available, and we can probably try our hands on them.
Yes.
At the same time, we do have some guided videos on YouTube which tells us exactly how to use them. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Now, apart from these, we'll definitely have a look at them probably in a while. But just want to check with you, apart from these, are there any regular courses, certifications, or qualifications which are offered by any universities or any bodies which probably people can take up?
Yeah. So in my company, we use Automation Anywhere, and Automation Anywhere have a certification for RPA. So they have different levels of certification that they do, and they have even the external certification as well. Like, you don't have to be a part of the company, but you can search for some of the options available externally as well. And there are a couple of bodies that have started developing some of the courses which revolve around RPA. All right. So if once you get hands-on experience in terms of how RPA works and kind of understand it, there are preferably a good opportunities available in form of courses that people can explore and enroll themselves. Institutes that provide these courses, short-term courses, which is about 3 or 6 months. There are quite a few in the market who kind of give this kind of courses wherein you can enroll and learn as well.
Okay, great. So what we can probably do is we can definitely pick up some of them and paste them on our episode so that people can view them right at the end. So
Yeah.
I guess that will be helpful for people who are looking for doing a course certification. So we can probably mention some of the links on this video. So that will be helpful.
Sure. Yeah.
Great. So all right. So the next thing, let's probably try to look at some of the job opportunities that are there. Let me just share my screen and let's basically discuss what are the jobs that I can see on Google, and you help us understand exactly what do you think is the expectation as far as that job is concerned. This is what I see on Google. So let me take an example of this job of project manager, robotic process automation, JP Morgan. Great. So yeah. So it involves project manager will be responsible for leadership and planning, and that's obvious. It talks about ensuring all RPA projects are delivered in accordance with the defined compliance or RPA frameworks, identifying opportunities, right? So yeah, can you explain to us what will be the expectation from a project manager? What kind of knowledge should a project manager have as far as RPA is concerned? Or a person who wants to apply for this job, what do you think is the expectation?
First and the foremost is they need to understand what RPA is about, what it does basically, what are the limitations, what are the kind of opportunities that you can explore when you're using an RPA solution. So these are some of the thought processes that they kind of need to cultivate within them, because once they get onto a job, like for example, if you think about a project manager itself, right? So once they start working with different stakeholders within a function or within any given company, right? All they need to do is to understand the process that are manual and which are repetitive in nature, to see when they are exploring these opportunities. All right, is that a solution that fits for RPA or not? All right. So some of the things start with in terms of exploration. It might be stakeholder engagement. It might be in terms of understanding some of the aspects of the process itself. Like being in some instances, you have to get your hand dirty in terms of knowing the process, because There are some aspects which only you can answer for the development team, right? Because the logic, the way it's been built and things like that have to be run through a project manager. So a project manager has to kind of work as a coordinator, at the same time work with the technical team as well, to ensure that the output that they need to design for them, it is in line with the process, right? And some of the legal aspects that might be involved in any process, right? They have to ensure that they are also covered within the process. And also all the knowledge that you might have through the project management as well, that is something is going to be very, very handy when you're managing these projects. It's just like any other project management, to be honest. But the aspect that is totally different is in terms of understanding how to explore a process, where the solution fits, and understanding which of processes can be included in the RPA. So these are the majority of the things that's needed.
Fair enough. So what I understand is, as a project manager or a functional leader or a team manager or a manager, to be in robotics, I guess your main skill will be to interact with your clients, understand exactly what their requirements are, what are those processes that they want to optimize, or probably reduce the cycle time, or some of the processes that they want to automate. Understand the requirements and talk to your developers, talk to your engineers or technicians, give the requirements clearly, state the requirements clearly, and then produce exactly what the result is. Am I clear in my understanding?
Yeah. It's basically you act as a translator as well in terms of operational requirements to technical requirements as well. So that's how it's looked at.
Fair enough. And as a technician, right, if somebody wants to start as a technical engineer or a person who's in the technical domain, let's say robotic programming and stuff like that, so they will have to learn about the coding. So is there any specific course or a certification to learn about how do you code or how do you program? Is there any course related to that?
I mean, if you know VBA and if you know any other languages, right, you can use these for the coding part of it. And it's not a hardcore coding, to be honest, right, Sriram? If you understand, because in some instances, what happens, like for example, in RPA UIPath, when I was experimenting some of the things, it can take some of the things without even needed coding part of it, right? Not that you need to be a hardcore coder in terms of for you to develop a solution for an RPA. Okay. But a good knowledge on the coding part of it is really very handy when it comes to complex coding or complex development for a RPA solution.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. All right, now let's look at probably a basic video on the UIPath, which is one of the tools. So if you can just kind of look at it and explain to us what are the features or functionality. So is this your first screen as you open it?
Yeah. So basically what it starts normally is you need to create a workflow. It's a sequencing of activities. So how you look at, say for example, process map, right? It looks like a workflow in terms of how it goes. That's a similar logic that this also works with. So you start with a workflow wherein what you're trying to create. Mm-hmm. And this would be the first screen in terms of trying to give a name of the bot that you're trying to create as well.
Okay. So you'll have to basically give your requirement in this, is what you're saying.
So this basically what it does is they're using a Windows calculator.
Okay.
In terms of doing the automation part of it.
Okay. Fair enough. Let's listen in.
Have an option to start from a blank workflow or start directly with recording. Let's select recording sequence. This will create our workflow from a recorder. Let's name it calculator. And we have three options here. Record existing will record current running applications. Record web will record the action in your browser by specifying the web URL you want to use. The record app allows you to specify an application you want it to record. In this case, we will be using record app. Now, this will open the Windows Explorer for you to specify the location of the app. This will be tricky if you don't know the location or the executable file of your application. I am using Windows 8 and here's my tip. I use Windows Q to search bar and search for the application. And I'll type calculator here Once you found your application, right-click on it and select Open File Location. Now it opens the file being used to open a calculator app. I will copy the path and paste it in the Explorer window of UIPath. Then click Open. So there is my calculator. I will select it and click Open. There, it opened the calculator app and I am ready to start recording it. Also, you notice that my cursor changed into a hand pointer? That means the recorder is active, so whatever you click on the screen, it will record it. Let's do a simple math here.
Yeah. So can you explain a little bit about this?
Yeah, so he was mentioning about recording, Srinam. So if you look at Excel, right, you had the record macro option, something like that. This is something similar to that. Basically, you can do a recording on a web or an application, or you can do a complete recording where you define exactly what needs to be recorded. So it's basically what it does is whatever movements that you have, it records all that movement. And when you run the app, it basically is replicating all the movements that you have done through the entire process part of it. So record and stop is what it normally works, just like an Excel macro. All right. And in between that, all the activities that you might do on a web or an application or any form of shape that you want to do, it gets recorded and it gets saved, and you just run it after that.
Okay, fair enough. Great. All right, so I think that's fair bit of information, Rishikesh, in terms of what are the jobs available, what are the expectations, how can a person start, and we'll also, as I mentioned, we'll also mention some of the links for some of the courses or some of the videos, some of the tools, trial versions. We'll probably provide as much information in this video. So yeah.
Sure.
We've basically spoken about a few points now. Where do you see the future? Where do you think robotics will take us?
Well, actually, it's going to create job opportunities, all right, and it's also going to create some of the opportunities where people have to start thinking beyond. So the jobs which are repetitive in nature may not be existing in near future. The most it is going to be more like a skilled kind of job which a robot or an artificial intelligence cannot do is what they'll be looking at. But looking at what we have achieved till now, right, there's a lot of scope that's available for people who want to take up this as a career. All right. At the same time, people who kind of doing a repetitive kind of task and monotonous kind of jobs, right, they don't have to do these kind of jobs. They can start learning something different and kind of build their new career aspiration. Yeah, maybe in automation itself, if they want to do it, they can go ahead and do it. And like I mentioned, you don't have to be completely technically savvy to do something in automation part of it. If you understand how a language works, a computer language, it's more than enough for you to help as well. But it has a bright future. At the same time, with the changing technology, right, you always need to update these bots as well. That's I forgot to mention that as a limitation as well, is because you have different version of softwares that come in, right? So every time you have this different version of softwares, the development that has gone through the robotic process automation, you need to review these codes to ensure that they are functioning right with the change in the system as well. So that is one of the things that one of the challenging things which is going to be there. But said and done, a great opportunity, a great career also for people kind of if they want to explore, and you can see a lot of automation in future as well.
Okay, great. So you heard it. A great opportunity, a lot of job opportunities. I think it's the reverse of what we generally have the thinking that RPA is going to take away jobs. I guess it's going to create a lot of jobs. So I think thank you so much, Rishikesh, for sharing all your valuable inputs. I wish you a bright career, and I'm sure a lot of people who are going to watch this video are going to learn about what RPA is and probably take some interest in terms of learning more about it. We're also going to mention a lot of information about the courses and other things available. Thank you so much, Rishikesh, for joining us today.
Thank you, Sriram. It was a pleasure. Thank you.
Take care.